Okay.
Yeah, baby. Just finishing up chewing in the beginning of recording. Very professional. Very demure.
Your food is very peculiar.
You mean healthy and nutrient dense?
I'm trying to say a word peculiar.
I'm like as close to space food as you can get. Like I was watching Blom last night, and they throw like this cube into some water, and it turns into a giant like cube of nutrients, and they eat that, and I was like, I want that.
Would you eat food out of a tube? Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Why?
If I knew where it came from, yeah. I mean, this is like you could basically take what I eat most mornings, apart from the granola. You could take and put into a tube, and I would be fine. It's like Go-Gurt. Like I basically just have like grown-up healthy Go-Gurt. I live like a child. Okay. I eat Go-Gurt. I listen to music far too much for any adult. I'm way too happy. I play every day.
That's what it is. You're too happy to
was
be
doing
an adult.
Life has not crushed my spirit at 38.
You're still
and let's
kicking.
be real. It's a rough start to the new year for me. I had a bum ankle and no car. Like,
you're still talking about the no car thing?
I don't have a car.
Are you still on that?
I don't have one yet. I'm in the process of buying a Hyundai Kona.
Are we sponsored by Hyundai?
We could be.
We got that Hyundai money?
Next year. I want Hyundai money. That'd be sick. We're just shooting the shit. None of this might even make it in. You know that now, right? We have new rules this year. There's new rules to the podcast.
I don't even know if this podcast goes out to anyone.
It does. They respond. They're very angry. They're very upset. They tried to unsubscribe. It's still going to them, and they're not happy about it. They've told me I made a mistake in giving away the email.
How is that our fault that they can't unsubscribe from the service that they're on?
I have no idea.
Wouldn't that be like Apple's or SoundCloud?
Somebody got a copy in the mail the other day. It was insane. It was burnt onto a disc. To which my response to their angry email was, well, one, where did you have a CD player, sir?
Two, have a CD player.
Why did you go through the effort of putting it in? And they said it broke the CD player. Our nonsense broke the CD player.
Well, I think getting a random CD delivered to your door with a podcast in 2025.
It finished the podcast, and the CD player started smoking.
Mission Impossible style. This is your podcast, whether you choose to listen to it or not.
One of our listeners is Ethan Hunt.
This podcast will now self-destruct.
Oh my God, that's what we should change our name to, is this podcast will now self-destruct.
Can we afford to rebrand?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Like early rebranding is fine.
I had somebody ask me for the first time why our name was UnPop.
Oh, great. What did you say?
Well, Kevin, you see.
Did you explain that it's a brand?
I panicked.
You tell him it's a failing brand, but
the
that's
fear
the goal
in my eyes
of the brand, so it's actually succeeding?
My eyes went wider than the South China Sea.
I love that you've put no thought into how to explain this.
So what I said.
You've done this for almost 2 years.
I've done YouTube for 8.
We're going to be at 2 years, and you can't, like, someone's like, so why is it called UnPop?
Yeah. So, well, you'll be happy to know that what I told them was
yes,
that we started as a brand that was going to talk about unpopular culture, and then we just decided to talk about normal stuff, and now the name
that wasn't the idea.
Is just
not at all.
Is because we're unpopular. Is what I told them.
Oh, great.
So, if you're that person I talked to, and you're listening, here's the show.
Do we rebrand now?
I think now we lean into it.
We lean into it. It's not because we're unpopular. You're very popular.
I'm not popular.
It's because I'm unpopular.
You're more popular than I am, and I'm on social media all the time.
You're right. People do tend to enjoy my presence.
Exactly.
Here's okay. Here's my elevator pitch. I'll give you the elevator pitch. So the next time someone asks you, they're like, "So why is it called UnPop?" I say, Well, no matter how you present something in popular culture, there will be a faction of people who view it as being an unpopular opinion. And we happen to be two of the most unpopular things in pop culture: a straight, white, middle-aged man and a non-binary person. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I get that. Like, people immediately, they're like, oh, yeah, wow. Yeah,
That's way better.
Thank you. I'm good at this. Hire me as your marketing manager.
No.
Fuck. You ready to clap?
Yes.
Are you ready to clap?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of the UnPop podcast. I am your Capitan Todo El Siempre, Kevin Miner, he, him, 2025. With me as always is
Odie Matthews, the chef, cooking up content in 2025.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
It's a dance bit on a podcast.
We have our own
No, it's a dance
I
bit.
do the music cues.
Yeah, but that one's better.
I do it in post.
Nah, that one's live. That's raw.
Live.
It's raw and
It's not
uncut.
gonna be. It's not gonna be.
It's as live as it gets on a podcast.
Coming to you live, Odie Matthews with a bunch of air horn. You want to finish your bit?
I did. I said that them.
Great. Great. Let's get into it. New structure this year. How's life this week for you, Odie? What you been up to?
Making air horn beats.
Wow, that's it. That took you a whole week.
It did.
That's a lot of focus for a very short bit.
It was worth it.
Your
Email
employers
in. My
must be
secret power
furious.
is if you liked my air horn bit.
You show up to the meeting on Monday. So, Odie, what do you got?
I've been working on something huge.
They're like, you know what? He's onto something. Or sorry, they're onto something. Jesus fucking.
What's week? My week has been great.
Welcome to 2025. I still can't get pronouns right.
I flew on a private jet.
Oh, cool. Yeah. No, tell me about that. All right. So, first time?
First time.
Wow. All right. Popping that private jet cherry. You and T Swift in the same club, baby.
Not even close. Have you been on a private jet?
No.
No,
I don't make it past security often.
At the regular airport. It's fine. Like, I mean,
What?
it's like, okay, here's the thing. I fly a lot, and you know that I used to travel full time. I mean,
Sometimes too much.
I voluntarily took 8 Frontier flights back to back, nonstop. Had a feeling. So I view flying as a very like straightforward experience where it's like, I know that I'm getting
point
on
A to point B.
I'm getting on a giant tin tube with crying babies and people that fart, and I'm stuck on that tin tube regardless for X amount of time.
Yeah.
So like the private jet just gets rid of the unwanted passenger experience of like annoying people next to you.
Okay.
But outside of that, I'm still on a tin tube. I'm still stuck in the sky, and I'm still going from point A to point B. Like,
yeah. All right. You said it was fine. Let's classify what fine means here. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One, how big was the private jet?
It
how many passengers?
Could hold 8 people.
8 people. Great. So moderate size, right?
Yeah.
It's like a private little room.
Little tiny one.
Did they serve champagne?
No.
Okay, cool. See, this is why you're saying it's fine. 3, were there attractive flight attendants?
No.
Yeah. See, we're knocking it down, man.
Just the pilot, one old guy.
The idea of a private jet as portrayed in cinema and rappers' music videos.
Not even close.
Really, any music video. There are attractive flight attendants who are attracted to you. That's the important part.
That was the thing. Mm-hmm.
They're attracted to you. That's what they get paid to do.
I don't.
There's champagne, right? Usually food. Were there leather seats?
The seats were the best part.
Were they leather?
No, I think they were like pleather.
Okay, so we're working our way back up a little bit, right? And then what were you on this plane to do? Were you going to a party or an after party or an after party?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it was a party. I mean,
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't.
What kind of party?
It is a big party.
Huge.
With all the
Great.
with
I believe
party
you.
stuff.
Your
Yeah,
tone sounds like someone telling the
well,
truth.
yeah,
right
because
now.
I mean, like what? You think I got on a private jet and just flew around in a circle for 2 hours so I could take video for somebody that hired me, and then I landed back right where I took off?
Actually, that's exactly what I think you did. That's what I think you did. I think your private jet experience had no attractive or attractive to you flight attendants, no champagne, pleather instead of leather seats, and you flew around in a circle for 2 hours. I wouldn't want to fly around. You know what you did? You know what you did? You flew in the most expensive holding pattern. That's what you did.
No,
so of course it was fine.
No, because I was at a party.
What kind of party?
It was a big party. I told you.
Who was there?
So what'd you do this week?
How many
Kevin?
8 people were there?
Kevin, what'd you do this week?
My week is wild. Okay, I went down and I got paid to be the Cowardly Lion.
Yes.
For New Year's Eve. At it's called the Desmond Hotel. Absolutely phenomenal. The experience was probably one of the best paid acting experiences I've ever had. Beth, who was my contact person there, she's absolutely phenomenal. She made everything super easy, and if I didn't answer a question within a couple days, because sometimes I didn't, and she would just get back to me and be like, hey, any word? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, and I'd get back to her. And then I showed up, and I was actually apologetic because sometimes I was like, oh, man, I missed, like, responding to a thing for a week. So I was like, hey, I hope everything was good. She's like, no, you're great. Like, it's the other fuck-ups I care about. Like, people don't respond for months sometimes. I'm like, wow, that's wild. But we go there. It's a big hotel. The courtyard is, like, built out to look like a town square almost. So like each hotel balcony, you step out and it feels like you're outside, and there's this big glass enclosure on top so that you actually get like sunlight during the day and moonlight at night. And then for New Year's Eve, they deck the place out, and they always do a theme. It was sold out this year. The theme was Over the Rainbow. So I'm the Cowardly Lion. My friend Lauren is Dorothy. We had a few other actors playing the Tin Man, the Scarecrow. We had 2 drag queens playing Glinda and Alphaba, the Wicked
I have a
Witch.
question.
Yeah.
Was this your audition for Wicked Part 2?
I hope so. I
Okay.
hope they can. I hope some of the video of me dressed up as the Cowardly Lion jumping into the middle of a New Year's Eve dance floor and crumping gets to a Hollywood producer.
No, you just gotta get to Ariana Grande.
Producer.
You just gotta get to Ariana.
Just send it to Ariana Grande. Just footage of me. Okay, straight up.
Well, I was at her party, Kevin, so I'll help
Oh,
you.
in the air where you flew in a holding pattern? That's
No,
great.
I was at a party.
Yeah, of course.
It was a Wicked party.
We had a professional makeup artist who actually works at a really crazy, awesome makeup place down in North Carolina. They do like it's like a haunt, right? So it's like a haunted theme park, but you can go there, I think year round, but like they do different stuff. But then in Halloween, obviously, like, you know, September, October, that's their big season. But it's down in North Carolina. He's from up here. He's one of the most like professional people I've ever met. I now know what it's like to sit in a makeup chair for 3 hours. And I got to tell you, it's not that bad. Like, I mean, really, there are worse things to complain about. I got asked multiple times if I was allergic to latex. Thank you for being safe. But they had this like latex foam muzzle that went over me to make me the actual classic Cowardly Lion. Like I was in the proper old school Wizard of Oz Cowardly Lion makeup, which was amazing. And then I bought a wig that looks exactly like the Cowardly Lion's wig to wear. The only thing that sucked about that night was the wig that I bought. There's like a bearded part that goes under. It was a little tight on my head. So like by the end of the night, I was like, I took that off and immediately like felt the pressure release and the headache go away. But I was just like, you know what? I only got to do this for a few hours. I'm just going around and taking pictures with people and dancing and having a great time. We had a really great stilt walker / like, I would say just like vaudevillain vaudevillian type performers. One of them was a Guinness World Record holder contortionist, and then
damn.
Yeah, and the Stiltwalker, Jessie, who was awesome. She and we went in first. They put all the makeup on us, and then to test out how the makeup was working, they sent us to dinner. So I walk into this room with like a white V-neck on and Cowardly Lion makeup and no wig, and just like start trying to eat things.
Like Cowardly Lion was doing Die Hard.
Pretty much. And so I'm trying to like eat cucumbers and like cookies and soup and stuff, and like the makeup's like messing up in certain parts, and I'm like Crest, I'm really sorry about this, and he's like, no, this is what I wanted to see where it would fuck up so that I could fix it before I leave. And I was like, oh great, well then I'm just gonna keep eating. But I walked in, Jesse was like, oh my god, I love your makeup. I was like, I like your vibe. And then we were just friends all night. Like anytime we were near each other, both of us were just dancing, because she's a stilt walker, but she's like, doing like Vegas style dancing and stuff, having a great time, looks great, killer. And then I would just be standing next to her, like whipping my tail around and busting moves. All in all, great experience. I feel like I learned, one, what it's like to put on professional makeup for hours. Not that bad. I can see where some people would be annoyed with it if you had to do it every day, right? Like, that's a long time to commit to makeup every day.
I mean, yeah, 3 months shoot, 3 hours in the chair, 7 days a week.
Day? Yeah,
I would kill myself.
It's a little tough.
Well,
I can see where
depends on
some
the
people
paycheck.
don't. Well, yeah, but the other so this is probably also why people who are doing makeup like that have crazy skincare routines. When I took off that latex glue and like the stuff that had affixed the part to my face. First off, they were like, oh yeah, it'll be fine all night because it's glued here and here and here, so don't worry if it starts to come up on your cheeks a little bit. Dude, they were not prepared for a lion that was going to like be doing handstands on the dance floor and like just really going wild. Because I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to character act whenever anyone interacts with me as the lion. So like people would come up and they'd be like, if I was a king of the forest, and I would just sing it with them, like we would. But I was like, anytime I'm not doing that, I'm just going to be me, and I'm just going to throw down and have a great time, because that's what people really want, is just great energy. It's New Year's Eve. And it worked to a T. Like, people loved it. The Scarecrow and I were dancing around, like, running into different rooms, having a good time. So it started, like, coming up because I'm sweating, but then the part that stayed affixed, most of it stayed affixed. It was kind of a fight toward the end of the night to keep it on. I was like, oh, no, now, like, the actual latex affixation was coming off. But when I took it off, that hurt. That actually, like, I was like, oh, goddamn, this stinks. Like, there's no way to not take it off slowly because of how strong the glue is. So, like, even me taking it off as fast as I could was, like, painful. Like you know how, like, taking off a Band-Aid is like, yeah, rip it off so that it's done with. Yeah, I tried ripping it off. It still took seconds of time. It was pain. Yeah. But then I also learned, like, what it's like to be a character performer in a park. Because, like
Disney.
Dude, props to anybody who's a character performer. One, I sweat my balls off in that fucking suit. I was in a fursuit in a big crowd of people on New Year's Eve. I was sweating a lot. They were like, are you going to wear pants in there? I was like, no, I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing underwear and this white V-neck, and that's it. But I sweat a ton. I probably shed like 3 pounds just in the first hour. Like, and then the rest of the night, just like, I'm like, I hope nobody hugs me because this thing is wet. But yeah, no, like, I learned what it's like, because, like, people are coming up to you. Some are nice, some are rude, like, but you just kind of got to meet people where they're at and engage with what they want to engage with. Some people wanted the Cowardly Lion. Some people wanted to dance. A lot of people just wanted a picture, and the tail was probably the funniest part. I kept making people hold my tail in the picture. I would just be like, hold my tail. Like, just hand it over to them. People loved it, though. And ultimately, I would say, like, that was a one-of-a-kind experience. I totally would do it again. So, like, if they call me up and they ask me next year, they're like, hey, do you want to come back and be whatever? Like, maybe we're doing Die Hard next year, right? You want to come back and be Bruce Willis? I'll do that.
Ooh,
right?
I'll fall out of a window.
Right? Yeah, that would be great. You could be, who's the bad guy who falls out the window? What's his name?
Gruber. Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber. You can be Gruber. I'll be Die Hard. But, no, all in all, I think that was a really cool experience. It definitely it was the best way I could have spent my New Year's because, like, I didn't really plan for anything anyway. And I think a lot of people go out, like, how do you do New Year's?
Wait, I don't.
What do you do for it? You don't do anything?
I stay home.
I think those are, like, the two sides for most people is, like, you're either staying home or you make plans and you go out into public and you're just in a giant crowd of people.
Nope.
And, like, half of them are wasted.
Yep, pass.
Right? And
You
so
either deal with drunk drivers on the way home.
Yeah. So for me, this was a really good way because I drove home immediately after we were done, right? So this was actually a really good way for me to be in a crowd and be interactive with people, having a good time, and then also just have a quick out, right? And just be like, all right, I'm out, peace. And I went home and went to sleep. So I got the best of both worlds.
I didn't even make it to midnight.
I think if I wasn't doing that, I probably wouldn't have made it to midnight.
I didn't try. It wasn't like a priority for me to stay up like that.
It's not. New Year's Eve is not a holiday for you. What is a holiday for you? You don't care for Christmas too much either. You're not a holiday season person.
Here's the holidays that I celebrate.
Hit me.
Halloween.
Okay.
Veterans Day.
Okay.
Marine Corps birthday.
Okay. November.
That's it. That's the end of the list.
What about your birthday? What about Max's birthday?
I'm not a birthday person. Oh, Max gets fucking spoiled.
See,
on his
there
birthday.
you got an extra holiday there. I mean, I don't think I need to tell anybody. I like everything. I'm a very happy person. I'm very content to be around.
It's not about being unhappy. It's just growing up, holidays had like a weird thing in my house, and also like even as a kid, I've never been able to be like, okay, so this day comes around once a year, and we go out and we get a pine tree, and we get each other a bunch of presents.
Yeah,
like. I understand. Like, I just never been one to. I would rather give presents than get presents. So holidays where people are giving me things make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I don't really like my birthday because I don't like people. Because that's a day where everybody just gives you presents. Mm-hmm. I like Christmas only for getting people that I care about gifts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, holidays are just kind of. I don't know.
I also enjoy giving more than getting, but I also realize that part of giving is giving people the ability to get you things.
No.
Well, Odie, let's say
I'm kidding. You're right. You're right.
We got to give people the ability to do that because there's other people who like giving more than getting as well.
Yeah,
and
I know.
If we all
right,
just walked around refusing it, then nobody would be happy about it. I've decided I lean into it, man. We're only going to be on this, rock spinning around this fireball one time. So I'm leaning into shit. I'm going to have fun with it. Some people are going to celebrate more than me. Some people are going to celebrate less than me. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to meet people where they're at. I'm going to have a good fucking time. If someone comes up and they're like, Merry Christmas, I say Merry Christmas back. Like, I don't have to correct them. If someone comes up and says Happy Hanukkah, I'm like, oh, to you too. Like, to me, that's the same thing as saying cheers. Hey, what's up? Cheers. Or, like, have a good day. Dude, I interacted with a dude. I was crouched over in the freezing cold this morning, pumping air into tires. Because there's a slow leak on the back of the Jeep right now on one of the tires. Like, it's very slow, but it's enough that, like, once every other week you have to go and put some air in it, right? It's annoying. But it's there. And they said they fixed it, but they didn't. So I'm crouched over. This guy comes out and, like, we make eye contact for 2 seconds. I could ignore this guy as he gets into his truck, but I said, good morning. That's it. Just said good morning. I gave him all the space and room to say whatever he was going to say. He was talking about some roof that was collapsing into his bathroom. I was like, this is wild. But I just leaned into it. I was like, well, I hope you have a better Saturday than what you're planning on. And he was like, yeah, cool, thanks, man. And, like, to me, this is good. This is very existential at this point. That's what life's all about. It's about, like, it's not like I could take that from a personal perspective and be like, oh, well, I didn't ask for this guy to explain all this stuff to me. No, of course I didn't. I just said good morning. But then I gave him the room to say that, and we both felt better at the end of the conversation. So, like, when it comes to holidays, like New Year's Eve, I could begrudgingly sit at home or begrudgingly be around people, or I can just, whatever I'm doing, really lean into it. Like, if somebody was like, hey, this is what our group's doing, we want to go out for New Year's Eve, and I'm like, I actually want to spend time with those people, I'm going to be like, all right, pump yourself up, talk yourself up, get ready for it, because I don't like being around that many drunk people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think I'd lean into it if I had to. You know, I'd be like, all right, let's have some fun. Let's like find our little corner of this universe that we can exist in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was around people, like, because I'm on an island out here. I mean, I don't really have out here in Colorado. Like, I don't have friends, family, or anything like that. So like, if I was around and you were like, hey, I'm doing this thing for Christmas, I'd probably do it. But also, like, I very much, I either am in, I'm an extroverted or an introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
I think is the way it is, or it's one of those variations, because when I am in the mood to be around people, which is 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm around people. I literally, one of my favorite conversations I had in 2024 was with this lady at the dollar store. I was thinking about getting a little garden on my balcony, and me and this old lady, she was easily like in her 80s, had like a 30-minute conversation about gardening, and it was awesome. Like I love that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if I'm doing something where my time is the most like precious thing for me, like working on a Magnum Nopus video or prepping a D&D campaign, or, you know, anything that I'm like, this to me is the most important thing for me, then I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm sure you and my other friends have realized that when I'm focused on something, I don't like to text. I don't like to talk on the phone. I very much like, it's dome over my world, shut everything out.
Yeah.
And that's just how I was on New Year's Eve, because it was also weird this year having Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was like, I did not like how it was in the middle of the week. I started a new job in the middle of all that. Like, nah.
I'm totally I'm just an optimist. That's where it is. I'm just like, I think I'm always going to be an optimist.
Lean
I'm
into
trying
it.
to be annoyed less by people, because there's so many things in the world to annoy you, you know?
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's not even a New Year's resolution. I've just been actively working on that for a long time.
Yeah,
So,
totally. I mean,
there we are.
I'm with you. If I'm going to be out somewhere doing something,
Yeah.
I'm going to lean into it. Like, all week. My one shot, I'm doing a D&D one shot campaign, I've told you, but for the listeners. And I've been there's two NPCs that they're going to interact with the most, and I'm like, okay, I'm working on my voices for them. So I've, in the shower, like while I'm editing, I've been, because, like, I don't know if this is for you, but I'm sure other people can relate. Like when you're trying to do like an accent, like when someone's like, oh, I can do an impression of like Michael Caine. You have like that phrase that gets you into the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working on that all week and stuff.
Well, I hope it works out, man. I hope they don't just like I was gonna respond to you. Oh, are you working on your D&D campaign so your players can come in and mess it up and not pay attention to the things that you work so hard on?
Yes.
That's a classic, right?
Yes.
Because like that's actually that's a really good segue into optimism.
Well, let me just say,
like,
my point is that like no matter what you do, I think, because like I'm not a performer, and I usually like I have pretty bad stage fright doing like voices and like acting in front of people.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to be better at that this year. Like lean into it. So that's what I was saying. It's just like to wrap up your point. Like lean into it. If you're gonna be at a D&D campaign, like be a character. If you're gonna go out with friends to like a certain venue, like lean into whatever it is that venue's doing. Like like I'm with you. Like I think that's more of how I want to be this year, and it's important, especially like. Because my craft now is, I'm the person with the giant camera filming everything downtown that everybody stares at.
Yeah.
So,
and this is what this podcast is about, really. I mean, this is our little
culture.
corner of the universe where we can not unpopular. Like where we can just like lean into whatever we're getting into, and like multiple times we've thought about like doing more of a like news oriented podcast and stuff, but we're not, because
or a new segment.
We lean into the things that we enjoy, right? And like ultimately, I think at the end of the day, the enjoyment driving this podcast and all of its absurdity is what is going to make it stand out amongst other things. Because we're never going to, like, I don't think we're ever going to get on and be like, it's the end of the world, this fucking conspiracy theory, or this is going on, and like, this
Flat
sucks.
Earth.
And like, we're not getting on and just like, because you can get that. It's everywhere, right?
Oh, totally.
You want right-wing conspiracy theories and fear-based political mongering, go to Joe Rogan, right? You want left-wing conspiracy theories and political fear-based mongering, there's like a million NPR
go to
podcasts
that version
you can listen
of Joe
to.
Rogan.
Well, there's so many different things.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like there are opposites everywhere. And ultimately, I think us, even when we're not enjoying something, right? We have our not jams. We have movies that we see that we don't like. I think finding the enjoyment in what we didn't like about it, rather than just bitching about it, is such a better way to come across. And even when we lean into something that we don't like when like when we get riled up about something, like you got to talking to me about dogs, and I was like, all dogs are spoiled. Don't call a dog spoiled. Any dog that has a good home spoiled. Anytime, like just getting into that and like having that little moment of passion and being able to lean into something, I think that's what it's all about, man.
In speaking of things that we like, did you see we called it the franchise got canceled?
Mm-hmm.
That's a shame. I think that was a really creative show.
Let's kick off the new year with some good news. Good show gets canceled.
Yeah. What else did we have for a little New Year recap?
Well, we had quite a few things for the New Year recap, but ultimately, okay, the franchise is a really good, well thought out show. But this, I don't think when a show like the franchise gets canceled after the first season, that it's necessarily indicative of the company just like not liking it. I think one, it probably didn't grab enough audience exposure because like I didn't see much advertising about it. I just started watching it and was like, oh, this is good, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's not like I went around and just blasted it all. I'm not that guy who's just blasting the things that he likes all over the internet. Like
I
watch the franchise,
here.
watch this, right?
Yeah, recommend it on the podcast, and that's about as far as I go.
It gets a little bit of time here. I'm not going around and telling everybody about it.
I found the franchise because of an HBO Max preview before watching something on HBO Max. I think it was like during House of the Dragon when I was trying the first season. I remember seeing a franchise trailer and I was like, oh, that looks like a show I would like.
Yeah.
And then I still didn't watch it until you did.
Well, and it's good. It's well written.
Yeah.
I think when I came on and gave it a little boost, that's when you were like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out now.
And it was good.
I think I just accelerated you watching it, which is good because now you watched it before it got canceled. But where I was going is like, I think a lot of times what happens is like, a show, unfortunately, just doesn't grab enough viewership now where the companies can continue it. And they've got 20 other shows slated because, and this is the way that a lot of things function now, record labels and production companies, what they're doing is they're signing on 20, 30 things at a time, but they're just hoping for the one that's going to make them all the extra cash that the other ones are losing.
Oh, yeah. And
right? They're hedging their bets. It's a quantity over quality a process, right? Because there's more coming out. We've talked about this. There's more coming out all the time. And in that more, there are things that grab attention, right? And they grab like viewership and they grab part of the culture and they last longer. But for every one of those, there's like 30 shows that get canceled every season.
Oh, yeah. And two, like with everything being on streaming, you don't have those royalties and residuals that you would have from it being on TV and the reruns and everything. Exactly. So now, I don't remember which streaming service it was. It was one of the millions that there are now.
Yeah.
Like the way that they have to gauge it is how much it costs to get like that actor and that talent and everything. And like scale how popular that talent is and scale that with how many seasons they could potentially do and how much those paychecks for that actor would have to go up because now actors can get more for doing shows and movies that are on streaming because they don't get the royalties. It's like this, it's like layers and layers that overcomplicate it. And I'm just like, maybe, hear me out. This is a crazy idea.
Hit me.
Maybe if you just made good stuff on streaming, people would watch it and it'd be worth making more of the same good stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, Odie, great argument. Great argument. I hear where you're coming from.
Where's your counter?
There's so many people that would just rather turn on 90 Day Fiancé in the fucking background. There's so many more people that are just going to turn on a reality television show or even a second screen streaming show. We were talking about this last year. This is a thing. There are shows that are designed to have less engagement so that you know what's going on in between staring and scrolling on your phone. Like, companies are actually saying, all right, well, most of the consumer base for this is going to be looking at TikTok while watching the show. This can't be that engaging or they won't continue watching it.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. That actually happens now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's interesting. I think we said Monarch, Legacy of Monsters kind of felt like that a little bit, or we read it. We talked about that, like we read an article about how how it was designed. And I was like, oh, no wonder I didn't like this show that I'm fully paying attention to, and I feel like I'm being talked down to.
Oh yeah. Any show where I get that feeling, because I do put my phone face down away from me, right, when I'm watching a show. And I'm starting to do that more and more. Like, my phone's outside of my bedroom when I go to bed. I'm one of those, like, weird people now. I've always been one of those
do not
weird
disturb
people
mode.
with my toe shoes and my do not disturb, and limiting my Instagram to 20 minutes a day, and, like, I'm really cutting down on how I interact with media so that when I do, it's more meaningful. And when I come across shows like Monarch, when I come across shows that are second screen streaming shows, I don't like them immediately.
No, and you know what? You're going to see when we get to our jams later, you'll see where I've been living the last few days.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's get around to it, because we have a few other things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
There was a...
I had one more thought about the TV show
franchise.
streaming thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's what it was. With that whole breakdown that I was talking about, the other thing that goes into that is you look at, like, the show The Big Bang Theory, where those actors were getting, like, I think it was like $1 million an episode or whatever.
Yep.
Now, apparently, even though shows like Sopranos, Big Bang Theory, Suits, White Collar, all Game of Thrones, these incredibly big shows that people, like, remember and want more of, apparently studios are kind of scared to do that because of how much it costs them to then keep that talent and produce that quality and stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
which is stupid, though, because, like, that's literally why you exist as an entertainment company, is to give us those magnum opus shows like Breaking Bad and like Game of Thrones and stuff. But instead, we get shows that are 22 minutes an episode, 8 episodes, and then you cancel it after one season because you didn't get 1 billion people watching it.
Well, and another show I just started watching, it's 5 seasons in, Lower Decks is canceled.
Yeah, and, like,
that got canceled too, and that's actually a great show, and it's got a good fan base.
Yeah. And I will say, if you were interested in watching the franchise but you were holding out for a season 2, I still personally say that the way it ends is satisfying enough. I agree. Yeah, I think it works, and that was my final thought. Is that even if you haven't seen it yet, it's still worth watching if you like movies and movie making. I think it's a really good show.
Yeah. A couple other things I'm bringing to the table.
Yes.
Nosferatu's killing it at the box office. It's in the top 50 for Focus Features ever. Now, I think that's a huge move. Robert Eggers got asked in an interview after Nosferatu if he was ever going to do a comedy, to which I love his response. He's like, why the fuck would I ever do that? There are things that I have skills in.
There's some directors that need to stay in their genre because they're just good at it.
That was the best response. He's like, why would I do a comedy? Like, I don't want
a comedy from him. No offense.
Well, and there's been such an emphasis for so long that, like, you have to be multifaceted, and he's like, no, I have a thing. I stick with it. Like,
but he is anyways.
These genre period piece horror films. Like, I mean, and he's been crushing it.
Anybody that thinks the Vivitch, the Lighthouse, and Nosferatu are all like,
and the Northman.
And the Northmen, especially the Northmen, are all like, how you can't sit there and be like, oh, those are all basically the same, because they're all different in their own respect, but around the horror genre.
Horror, isolated drama, epic drama, horror.
Yeah.
So we got that. Jason Momoa's Lobo.
So I wanted to talk about that. So
hit me.
I think it was, I want to say 2023.
Yeah.
Because I think December of 2023 was Aquaman 2, and then it wasn't until Creature Commandos came out in 2024 that officially kicked off the DC James Gunn verse. So
Creature Commandos is official. Anything that they mention in Creature Commandos or going forward that was James Gunn previously is canon, but only retroactively.
So I think, so the last official movie in Zack Snyder's DC universe, DCEU, was Aquaman 2. So
yes,
I remember around the time Aquaman 2 was either getting ready to come out or had already come out, Jason Momoa went to the DC studios, and apparently, I remember he posted something like, everybody was in a good mood, and they all cheered and clapped when he was there, and everybody was like super happy and upbeat, and he had amazing conversations, and everybody was like, yeah, he's Lobo, right? Like, he's Lobo. And now he's Lobo. So I think it's just funny that this has been, like, people called this the day it happened, and it's been over a year since we've heard anything. And him appearing in the Supergirl movie is interesting because I can't remember the original creator, or it was either the writer or the artist for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the original comic book run. Yeah. Lobo was supposed to be in it.
Oh, cool.
So this is very fitting.
Yeah. So this is a nod. I love what James Gunn is doing. I mean, Creature Commandos is phenomenal. Episode 5, I think, just came out.
Oh, I need to watch that.
5 or 6 yesterday.
I missed Thursdays.
I watched that. It was great.
I am officially...
You're in.
I'm officially on board with Creature Commandos. I am still upset that, spoiler alert, G.I. Robot hasn't come back, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, and we just got Dr. Phosphorus's backstory.
Don't tell me.
Each episode we're getting a backstory. As I was watching it, I was like, you know what? This was, I think James Gunn's making a lot of really smart moves. One, Jason Momoa as Lobo immediately gets rid of Aquaman.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
It gets rid of anything that anybody would say about, like, and people will still mention it, but it's not going to be with the same timbre that they would have had, you know, because like ultimately I think James Gunn going through and making sure that the Snyderverse doesn't bleed over into anything that they're doing is setting the stage in a better way for a more engaging era of DC films. Now, I don't want to just say horror or superhero films. I want to say DC films, because it seems to me that James Gunn has a really good way of approaching a story and assessing what's going to be best for it, right?
Okay, so there is something that he said recently about greenlighting movies at DC. We've talked about how he's doing basically Elseworlds with like the Batman, Penguin, you know. If something needs to be in its own universe, it can be in its own universe. But he said a Clayface movie was greenlit. Yeah. And God, I wish I could remember the writer off the top of my head, but we would recognize his work. Yeah. People were basically like, how do you determine like what gets greenlit, like blah 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 blah. And James Gunn was like, I don't greenlight anything until somebody comes to me with a ready to go script with like a clear path forward. And the guy that wants to do Clayface, his was ready, so that's why I greenlit it. And I'm like, good. See, this is nice because I'm sick of Marvel. Doesn't do it as much, but Disney does it a lot with Star Wars, where they'll be like, okay, this person's doing a Rogue One Star Wars Rogue Squadron movie, and then we're going to do a Rey trilogy, and then we're going to do a solo spin-off sequel movie. They announce all these movies, all these properties, and then 90% of them get canceled. Or they're like, this director's going to do it. Oh, Taika Waititi Star Wars movie that you were really excited for? Canceled.
Done.
Like, and so it's nice that James Gunn's like, yeah, we're going to do Superman, we're going to do Supergirl, and then it's as scripts are ready. Like, I know on your list is the Batman.
Yeah.
Like, that movie has a director, but it has not been cast because they're still working on the script.
Oh, yeah, but I also like the big thing I liked is he's not doing the origin story again, right? Like that was the other.
Thank God.
I was gonna bring this up kind of like in order, like so we got Lobo. No, you're fine. Like I think ultimately, you know, here's what James Gunn has done. Like Lobo got cast, everybody called it, but it's not like they went out and they were like, you guys were right. Like they were just like, yeah, we'll announce it when it's ready. You know, like Clayface movie gets greenlit, we'll announce it because it's ready. Like everything that's coming along is only getting announced as it's ready, when it's ready, and it's generating. I feign from calling it hype. I'd rather call it interest. There's interest in these films again, right? And there's interest in this universe again. I was completely, you know this, like it's recorded, but we've been doing this for 2 years. I was completely off of DC. I did not like DC at all. I didn't like anything that they were doing. I thought they completely wasted Cavill. Like I really wasn't enjoying it.
12 years since a Superman standalone movie.
It's wild.
12 years.
And they had the best, most perfect looking person for it ever with like a great voice, and like he could have done
one
it,
movie.
but they just didn't do it. Yeah, he got one movie. So ultimately,
we got 2 Wonder Woman movies. One was ass, but one Superman. Sorry, that really bothers.
Dude, you don't gotta tell me, baby. I remember like I was very hopeful for DC because I was like, oh, Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, she looks the part, cool. Let's go do the thing. And then I was watching that movie, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is not good. I was like, oh, this is not good quality.
Wonder Woman 84 was terrible.
Well, and then Wonder Woman 84, and you got Pedro Pascal, and you're like, okay, well, we got Kristen Wiig, we got
what do you wish
Pedro
for?
Pascal, like, let's see what's good. And like,
Yeah.
we went in and we watched it, and we're like, oh yeah, no, it's not good again. All right.
And then the
swing it
Flash
back.
movie
It's
came out, and we were like, what the fuck?
We were just like watching DC strike out at home plate. You know, like they were just swinging and missing over and over again. They were like, no, pitch another. And we were like, no, you missed 3 times already. And they're like, yeah, we got 5 more strikes. Like,
Did you see a fun fan casting for the Flash?
no.
Somebody said Elliot Page should be the
hell yeah.
Flash. And
No,
I was
that'd be
like,
sick.
oh, dude, definitely. But you know who I think would actually be this is just in my opinion, but
What?
obviously different variations of the Flash. But I really like Wally West, who
Okay.
is Barry Allen ends up marrying Iris West. Her dad's usually a cop. Her brother is Wally West, and that's how like usually there's connection.
Yeah.
I think the kid from Stranger Things that plays Lucas would be a really good Wally West.
That'd be cool.
So
I'm into that.
that's my.
I like, well, I don't fan cast things, so I don't have anything to add to that. I jokingly fan cast things on this podcast.
And that's what
But-
matters.
Yeah. But ultimately, like, the big thing that I wanted to get into is like James Gunn seems to be a good person at the helm. Like Feige, like we went through Feige's arc and it was incredible, right? Like leading up to Endgame, everything was great. The build-up was awesome. And
Insane.
then over the past couple of years, we've been talking about superhero fatigue because what happened was like, you know, and we've talked about this, the studios are like, that's working. Do that a million times and do
Make
it
me
faster.
$5 billion movies a year.
Make me 5 of those a year, and all of them have a similar plot arc, and all of them are in the same universe, and it's all like,
Every big villain ever.
all of
at
it has
once.
continuity, and all of it ties in, and like it was just too much. Like
Yeah.
instead of just hitting the finish line, and we talk about this with regular shows sometimes. Like I love when a show hits a finish line in season 1 or season 2. And I know that there's a lot of people who are like, no, but I want more. I'm like, if you want more, it did the right thing.
Yeah.
It did a good job. You know, like anytime I finish a book and I'm like, wow, I wish there was more of this universe. I'm like, wow, that's how you know it was good.
Yeah.
Like, but instead people make it about themselves and they're like, but I want more, so you should make more. And then when it's lesser quality, they just hit the fucking comment sections and they're like, this isn't the thing that I'm used to. And it's like, well, yeah, because it was only supposed to be the one thing.
Right.
Like,
And you know,
it was like,
okay, so you hit an
why are you
interesting point.
surprised? Why are
You know what kind of movies I've really been enjoying? Or not
standalone
really,
films?
not been enjoying, but the kind
What?
of movie sequel that I like is when, and this is a bad example, but just because I don't want to like sit here and think about a bunch.
Yeah.
I think of the movie Extraction on Netflix. Now I'm not
Okay.
this. I think that if you like John Wick's,
Extraction.
yeah,
as we-
Extraction.
as we commonly call it.
If you like John Wick style movies and you like Chris Hemsworth, this is a very fun movie. It is just like 2 hours of nonstop action. But I like that basically he has this one mission to rescue a boy in the first one, and then they did a sequel, and it kind of ties in because he gets shot at the end of the first one and then he comes back in the second. But I like that it's just another mission. Like,
Yeah.
give me this character that's good at something. Let me see him be good at this thing, and then just give me another time of him. Like, I don't need it to connect. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I kind of like it when it's just like it doesn't connect as much.
Oh,
Depending on what it is.
Well, and yeah, what's the intention? What's the level of quality? How long can you sustain it? Right? Those are the real questions that you should ask when crafting any story. Because ultimately, like, if you turn Lord of the Rings into 5 movies, that would be a fucking slog, man. I don't want 5 Lord of the Rings movies. It was perfect with the trilogy. We're good. I know that the trilogy is coming back. Let's not go on a tangent again.
Oh, well, you made me think of something else. While you
What?
keep talking, I'm going to add it to the list of news.
Okay.
Or I can
well,
talk about it now.
I was just gonna say that you've got, yeah. What is it? Hit me.
Okay. Well, okay. Actually, sorry. I have 2 thoughts because I had one more thought about the Batman thing.
I'm just triggering thoughts.
You, dude, you're in my wheelhouse.
Well, you didn't write much down here, so
because
all right.
off the top of my dome, baby.
Okay.
One, Batman. I saw people talking, and I know that Alan Richardson himself came out and said, the guy from Reacher, Alan Richardson as Batman. I love that. Give me a big Batman. Give me a big hulky Batman.
What Ben Affleck was trying to be.
Yeah, but give me someone better than him,
Bigger.
and Alan Richardson's better than him.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, for sure.
I'm so excited for Reacher season 3. Reacher is the perfect show for me because it's the reason I liked Rebel Ridge so much last year. Give me a military veteran just taking down bad guys. I love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
My other thought was, I saw a really funny interview. David Fincher, who did Mindhunters and Seven and stuff. HBO, Warner Brothers, is redoing Harry Potter as every book is going to be a season of like 8 1-hour episodes.
Oh, sick.
It's going to be a show, right?
Yeah. I like that.
David Fincher, and now I don't know if he was talking about the original like Harry Potter movies or if he was talking about this new Harry Potter show, but he apparently met with Warner Brothers, was like, let me do Harry Potter, let's make it dark and weird and scary and creepy and weird. And I was like,
because it is dark and weird and
I was like, you know what
weird.
though, I would love to see a Harry Potter dark and gritty, like almost police procedural style Harry Potter, because that universe is pretty fun. And actually I'm doing Fantastic Beasts on Magnum Nopus because people voted for that to be my next like movie series that I cover. So I get to watch the prequel about the magic.
Fantastic Beasts was kind of a police procedural. Like there's an investigator and they're on this adventure. Like, but everything. Okay, so like when you get into these genres, right? Like when you're in these different realms, and I think like this can wrap up kind of everything that we're talking about with DC and stuff. Like I feigned away from calling it superhero films because I feel like a lot of what James Gunn's going to do is going to be different than just your typical superhero films. Like ultimately, Creature Commandos isn't just a superhero show. It's a cartoon superhero led drama / action about the backstories of these weird characters that you don't see in the DCU.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, ultimately, I'd like to see some of them in the DCU, but even if it just stays within Creature Commandos, it's its own little thing. It's got, like, Gogol Bordello is doing most of the soundtrack, right? And then when you look at Fincher doing, like, Harry Potter, he's crafting this style for it. So, like, as long as it stays within that style and doesn't try to do too much, I think each one of these things can perform well, either isolated or tied together, as long as they tend to match, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it becomes about theme. Like, because once you throw off from the theme, but with the same characters, some people are going to like it, some people are not. And it's good to take risks and stuff, but ultimately, when you're making little pieces, like, you and I have talked about this before, when you're making pieces of comic book lore into film, like what you have to walk that line of balancing how you please people, but ultimately making it its own theme and making it original and making it stand out with good quality is going to be the best.
Yeah, I mean, the prime example of that, look at all the Batman movies across all of film.
They're very different.
You have some that are very goofy and campy, some that are dark and serious, some that are a little bit behind the line of both, some that are colorful and more for kids. And some people like some of those, some people hate other ones of those, and it's all the same thing with different interpretations, different themes, and it's mixed in with a couple different genres with that. And I think you're right. I completely 100% agree.
Exactly.
And you can put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you put something on here. I've got a question. What is this movie about a buoy and a satellite? What is this?
Okay, hold on.
I didn't even look it up.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
What is?
Okay. I'm bringing it up. I wanted. Okay. So this movie's called Love Me.
Okay.
Apparently it came out some places already, but it comes out January 31st everywhere else.
Okay.
It stars Steven Yeun from Walking Dead fame and Invincible.
Cool. Yep.
Kristen Stewart from Twilight fan. And it is literally about, and I watched the trailer. It is about a post-apocalyptic Earth, and there is a satellite and a buoy in the ocean that I guess have like they're robots because they start talking to each other, and they fall in love. And when they're depicting the love scenes, it's the actors Steven Yeun and Kristen Stewart, and it's literally a love story about a satellite who falls in love with a buoy because they can never be together.
That's cute.
It looks so fucking stupid. It's not animated. It's live action. I should have said that.
Okay.
This isn't a kids movie. It's rated R.
Just sounds weird.
It sounds ridiculous.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll watch it. Like, might be good.
I think I gotta put it on my list for movies this year, right?
Yeah, I'll try it. Like, why not? I mean, that sounds original. Like, yeah, Bowie and a satellite fall in love because they communicate. One blinks, the other's up. One's up in the sky twinkling, one's down in the ocean blinking, right? Like, I mean, ultimately, yeah, okay.
My
cool.
question is,
let's check it out.
Are they synced up where the buoy in the ocean is in the same orbital pattern as the satellite, or is the satellite passing around and they only get like a window to talk every time?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Was there? It's more that's the conflict is how much time they get to speak to each other, right? Like that's.
I think the conflict is that they can one's in space and
tension.
One's in the ocean.
Yeah, but like the source of tension is like, oh, well, there might be a couple days where that satellite's not in view, and they have no control because that's an orbital pattern and the ocean's tide shifting. So, yeah, there are these forces that are out of their control that are keeping them from being together, namely gravity, space, time, and drift, right? But like ultimately, that's kind of cool. It's a metaphor. Sounds like it might be all right.
You're too much of an optimist. You can't even
100%.
Can't even have fun with insulting this stupid movie with me.
I'll try it. Well, that doesn't sound stupid to me. Like there are movies where if you told me like about it, I'd probably be like, yeah, that sounds dumb. I'm not.
Okay, how about this movie that it's on my watch queue? A volcano erupts, opening fissures in the ground where tarantulas that are imbued with lava come out and wreak havoc.
Who's making it?
Oh, I think it's an asylum film.
Okay. So it's like low budget, thriller, horror, adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass on that one.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds like it'll be bad.
I will watch this Love Me movie because it's only an hour and a half, and I will let you know if it's worth watching.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds good. But volcano, fissures, tarantula sounds like that's like a fever dream of a film. Maybe I'd watch it sometime. I'd probably have to be high to watch that.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
Here's the crazy thing. I haven't had any THC in months. Like, this is crazy. Like, because I had that one day that I took a hit off my pen, and then I woke up the next day and was like, I'm not feeling this. And I just threw the pen out. I still had some stuff left in it. And I was like, I'm done. And I literally, like, it's so funny, the relationship I have with THC, because, like, I didn't go out to get any more. I didn't even think about it during the holidays. I didn't, like no one around me offered for me to smoke or anything, so I didn't do anything. I was just like, oh, okay, cool, great. We're chilling, Actually, no. Somebody offered me a dab, and I was like, no. 100% no on that. I don't want to fuck myself up. But, yeah, so ultimately, that, like, yeah, I'm an optimist, but, like, some movies are dumb. Last thing that I wanted to chat about, 2025 is here, and Logan Paul's going to fight Conor McGregor in India, and the world is a meme. And our podcast has come at the right time because the ridiculousness and the absurdity that we embrace. Yeah, it's real. That was a real offer for a real fight in India, and people immediately were like, "No, you need to spend your money on having the world's largest starving population, not having two internet stars go fight each other," because that's what Conor McGregor has become at this point. Like, he started out as a great fighter, and then kind of fell into this bucket of people who are just can't seem to get out of their own way. And he's gonna fight.
It's a Logan Paul.
Yeah, Logan Paul. Yeah, that's what I said.
I thought
not
it
Jake.
Was I thought it was Jake
not the little
Paul.
one. No, the older brother who rode out with him for his fight, sham of a fight against Mike Tyson. This is the equivalent of like the two popular kids on the playground pushing each other. Like, that's how I view this.
This
I'm
is
like,
the equivalent
this is
of when
childish.
This is like back in the 90s or 80s if like Stallone would have been playing one person versus if Stallone and Schwarzenegger would have been in a movie together where they were like pitted against each other.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
It's 100% that, but like it's Stallone and Schwarzenegger if nobody liked them.
I was saying it happened now. I'm saying if that happened now, like Stallone versus Schwarzenegger happened now, nobody would care. They'd be like, "What?" And
even like these are two dudes that, like, their fan bases are insufferable.
Conor McGregor's in legal trouble, isn't he?
Insufferable too. Conor McGregor's in tons of legal trouble constantly these days, and there's just like on the internet for the past year, like, he really fucked up with his final fight with the UFC. There were pictures surfacing about him like partying too much and just being a wild man. And, like,
are you saying that he's not a good person?
He just couldn't get out of his own way, man.
Famous domestic abuser, Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it just absolutely rough.
Dude, how? Okay, I mean, you can speak on this because
hit me.
you're a fighter.
Don't call me that. I train.
Oh, sorry. You're a lover, not
I train.
a fighter.
I do both.
Okay, the Paul brothers are boxers, and Conor McGregor is UFC, right?
He was an MMA fighter, but primarily a striker.
Okay,
striker being someone who specializes in hand-to-hand.
So how is Logan Paul gonna fight MMA if he's a boxer? Do those translate very well?
No.
Okay, cool.
He would
Can't
have
wait to watch him die.
Well, he'd have to train. I mean, the thing, it just comes down to training, really. Like, at the end of the day, the question that's being posited is, can this younger man train hard enough and well enough and become well-trained enough to beat up this other older man who's, they seem to be of equal, let's call it, what's infame, right? Infamy, in both the internet and popular culture. And really, the question is just who's going to train better and who's not going to look like an absolute schmuck. And maybe they come out and they actually look pretty good fighting each other. The thing I don't like about that outcome is it opens the door for more of this shit.
Where YouTubers turn into fighters?
Well, they already do.
Yeah.
There's already, what are they? The streamer wars or whatever? Streamer fights or whatever it is. Streamers will literally train boxing for 2 months and then go fight each other. And it's not great. It doesn't look good, for the most part. Some of them have a boxing history. But ultimately, it's the lowest form of gladiatorial combat. It's bread and circuses by the people who are getting paid wages to make the bread and the circuses.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
And people will be like, people that actually like the Paul brothers, which, they're usually children or weirdos. But they'll always be like, why are you rooting for them to fail? You don't want them to be successful. It's like, well, no, I don't want them to be successful because they're bad people. But two, I don't want to watch them fail because I don't want it to prove that a YouTuber can't be a fighter. I don't care. Yeah. I want them to fail because Logan Paul is a terrible human being and his brother Jake Paul should get hit by a golf cart.
It's like Game of Thrones. They
Joffrey.
say, at one point they're just like, why do the worst people keep surviving?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is. We're rewarding these people for being low-level entertainers.
One of them is about to be president.
Which one?
The one that we're rewarding.
A
low-level entertainer.
Yeah, people are low-level entertainers, and ultimately, I mean, dude, I was talking with somebody recently, and something that's really just kind of, it's not forcing me into a reclusive hole because here I am podcasting, but ultimately men of our generation and younger are reading less. People are putting less stock into higher education because it costs too much. So that's actually that's a valid concern that it costs way too fucking much to get a higher education. But ultimately, we have the encyclopedia at our fingertips every day. We have education in public libraries that still exist that you can get for yourself. It requires putting in way more effort than it does to click on a thing and go down a YouTube hole or go down a TikTok hole or go down the distraction rate that people exist in that is keeping them from being more intelligent and not rewarding these things it's so high. Right? It's so consistent that people are becoming distracted, less intelligent, and of course this is the outcome. When we're not thinking as much, when we're losing track of purposeful and intentional progress in our own lives, of course we're going to give more credence to things that are I honestly probably won't watch this fight, and it's not out of protest. I just don't think it's interesting.
Yeah,
and I don't think
care.
even if the rest of the world is watching it that it's interesting. I'll let other people tell me how it went. I'm sure highlight reels will pop up somewhere that I'll inevitably see. I just don't care. I honestly could care less about these two men's. I care more about watching some of my favorite local fighters continue to climb rather than watching these two guys who are just popular on the internet punch each other in the face.
I would rather watch Lava Tarantula.
I'd rather, exactly. I'd rather watch Lava Tarantula, and I don't even want to watch that.
Me either.
Yeah,
I don't even want to watch that, and I get paid to watch that.
Shows you my priority level on that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there are so many things in this world that like you can be negative about, and we keep coming back to this. I'm an optimist in that like I'm hopeful that eventually we kind of like look back on this time and we're like, oh, we were all way too addicted to social media, and we were all way too into the concept of popularity facing off against popularity. We were rewarding, like, the richest man in the world all of a sudden was telling Britain that they needed to have a new version of elections. Like, that actually happened this week. I'm like, why is this a thing? Why are we doing this? Why are we creating new kings and new gladiatorial combat systems? What are we actually doing here, and how do we improve this broken system? Because I mean, I have conversations every week, man. I'm talking with people who come into my office or come into different spaces, and they talk about the broken systems that they exist in, like the healthcare system and things like that. And and I have to, and I think that's part of the reason that I am an optimist, because I'm like, well, despite all this shit, we're still here. So that's good, at least. That's, you know, I woke up, we've got the ability to change things. That doesn't stop just because the world like is weird and absurd, and like what a strange place to be in the first world. But like ultimately, like these broken systems are not the reason to not have hope, or to like I can't tell you how many other people will talk to me about climbing into a little hidey hole. Like they're like, I just don't like people anymore. It's like, well, no, you do, because you like a lot of things that you consume that are made by people. There's still people on the other end of that, but like it's the I know that I'm on so much of a tangent now. The big thing that I would wrap this up with is just like, the world is absurd, and if you lock yourself into an echo chamber of infotainment, you are only going to craft for yourself a limited experience that cannot possibly comprehend the absurdity that you would be faced with once you step outside of that echo chamber.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, thanks. And so, like, really, at the end of the day, cool, Logan Paul and Conor McGregor are going to fight each other, and this is our commentary on it. We've already given them attention, right? Like, we're hypocrites already. Like,
I didn't even know that was happening until you told me.
Well, it popped up. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, $250 million to fight in India, and I had the same thought so many other people did. It's like, why is India not using that $250 million for something better than a fucking match?
Could make a Red 1 sequel with The Rock and Chris Evans.
But I mean, they could.
But also, you know what sucks about that is like, well, no, not what sucks. It tells me that my news feed is altered right, because that didn't pop up.
Yeah. Well, for me, I don't want to lose track of those things either. Like, I want to see news from both sides. The only time I want to tailor an algorithm to do specific things is I want my music algorithm to, we've said it twice now, the fucking algorithm. I want my music platforms to suggest versatile music, sometimes in languages that I don't understand. I get that, right? I want to continually, if I'm on YouTube, I make sure now to not just search the things that I like, but to find realms that I haven't gone into in a while, maybe I have less interest in. But like, I noticed that my YouTube, because I was watching a lot of Magnum Nopus videos, and then a lot of Magic the Gathering videos, and a lot of like, I was watching, so it just started feeding me all of this nerd infotainment and like people having opinions on Warhammer and stuff like that. And I was like, where are the intellectual like essays that I was into about poetry and philosophy? And they're there. I still have to search for them again, though, because what you're searching for the most will be fed to you on every single platform. That's how they keep you engaged. And so for me, like, I very much so, I've had to go back in and alter that. And I'm glad that my news feeds are not biased one way or the other. I don't want to make an echo chamber for myself in 2025. I feel like that's the biggest mistake you can make as a human being, is to lock yourself into an echo chamber, because of course the world's going to seem hard to like understand or manage when you're in your protective little echo chamber, and then you go out and it turns out there's a million other things happening all the fucking time. Like, how are you going to be prepared to handle any of that if you're only engaged in certain areas?
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
What's your jam?
Yeah.
Let's get back on track and get back to the silliness and absurdity here.
Just laying on this, like, you just got, it's like, you remind me like at the end of a seminar where like, it's like all fun and games at the end. They're like, listen, if you really want to get
real.
serious about this,
Yeah. Let's be real here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I rapid fire some? I have a lot of jams.
Please do.
And I kind of want to rapid fire some.
Hit them.
First up, I've been
Rapid
working on a project for Man of Nopus, so I've been watching a specific director's films. So I watched The Beach That Makes You Old, the movie Old. I watched The Village, and I watched Knock at the Cabin.
M. Night
Some M. Night Shyamalan movies for a upcoming video. So
I love M. Night Shampoo.
I don't like The Village.
Okay.
I like Old and I like Knock at the Cabin. Those are two of my favorites. I really like Knock at the Cabin.
I don't like Old.
I liked Old.
I watched that and I was like, yeah, I get it. That's one of those movies. We've been over this. I was just like, yeah, this one's not for me. All right, cool.
Which is totally fair.
Yeah.
But the other two that I watched this week, where I've been kind of living, is both from 1999, the classic Deep Rising and Office Space.
Oh, nice.
I am trying to go through movies in the 90s specifically first that I've been told about, or I've seen memes about, or I've seen clips about, and I haven't got around to watching them. So I finally got around to watching Office Space.
Is great. It's a classic, man.
Yeah,
it holds
honestly,
up too.
It's still relatable, except for the whole mentioning of going into the year 2000. It's still very like the whole office culture, the boss that wants you to do stupid stuff, coming in on the weekend, hating your life, stuck in traffic. It reminded me of when I lived in Boston.
Well, it's dated only in the way that, like, it's actually period dated. Like, it was timely at its time, and that's good. Like,
it's still
I like
relevant,
that you go
though.
back and you watch it, and maybe somebody watching it would be like, what the fuck is Y2K? But if you look up Y2K, you can find that pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I watched Deep Rising, which is a alien sea creature, sea cruise movie.
Yes.
Very
weird.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's fine. Was it fun?
It was fun. That's the thing. Is
that's
like
all that matters, right?
It was fun. Is it good? No. It's one of those that I would cover on Magnum Opus, and it would be so bad it's good.
Yeah. Well, and what else you got? You got more?
No, that was it. That was all.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I know that I went on a really deep existential tangent about the world and, like, where we are in the beginning of this, which, that is aptly because I did put for the title of this first episode, New Screams into the Abyss.
That is
New
true.
Year, New Screams into the Abyss. That was my Scream into the Abyss. But ultimately, like, you do have to make time for leisure, and you do have to make time for just embracing something silly or fun for a little bit, because that's the point. And if you're someone who likes film, watch the dumb film. Like, have fun with that too. If you're someone who likes music, listen to an album that you might not otherwise listen to. You might find a song that you like.
Always.
I said it. I don't see myself ever loving country, but God knows someday, because I try, it might actually happen.
Yeah, I do have one other jam.
Hit me.
You're not the only one that can make music around here, Kevin. I didn't make that either.
That is low quality.
I didn't make it.
Would you go on Fiverr and just have somebody? You were like, give me all the annoying DJ sounds. Give me something that would be
It's on YouTube.
A car alarm that would immediately just send someone into rage.
It's my jam. Don't diss it.
That's a movie right there. The car alarm that set the world on fire.
Listen,
it's just.
If you don't love
What?
Air Horn Frenzy by DJ 0.0000001725, we can't be friends.
Then this podcast is over. I'm not even doing my jam. No, my jams this week. So I've got a couple. One, Lower Decks is a jam. I don't care that it's canceled. Absolutely love it.
Fair.
Started watching it. Phenomenal. Adriana and I watched a couple episodes, and it's really funny. A lot of like duos in cartoon shows like that, like Archer or Final Space or Lower Decks, have a very similar dynamic to what Adriana and I have, in that, like, we are incessantly just annoying one another. Which is really funny because it just gives us, like, fodder to send each other pictures of these characters interacting the way that we're very familiar with. Like, there's an opening where what's his name? Brad Boimler. He's like trying to get Ensign Mariner to help him on Lower Decks, and she's like, nope, still mad at you. I'm like, that's a classic interaction that we have. So we watched a couple episodes of that. That was really good. I also what was my other jam this week? Fuck, I had it at the tip of my tongue, and then I was talking about.
Well, that's
Lower
the show,
Decks.
folks.
That's not the show. No, I definitely had.
That's all, folks.
I had other jams this week.
Play the outro music.
I forget what it was. No, so my other jam music-wise, I've been listening to a lot of R&B this week, so I'm really delving back into like Kalani. I love her body of music. I love everything that she's been doing. But this morning, and this was like a jam. You know, like I had I told you I totally lost track of time. There is a Polish black metal band called Patriarch. This is not in English. This is not very accessible music. This is like Ghost. This is like Sleep Token. They wear really weird stuff. They've been around for about the same amount of time as Sleep Token. They are a Polish black metal band. They are called Patriarch. Now, they used to be called Batushka. But there were two guys who helped form the band Batushka, and they parted ways. One sued the other, but both continued to play in bands called Batushka because they had people who would record and people who would play live. So what they did was they both got two live bands, and there were two bands going around as Batushka, playing Batushka songs, but also having different songs in their sets, which is confusing as fuck, right? So one of them this year has relabeled itself as Patriarch, and they released an album called it's called it's called Prophet Ilya, which is the prophet Elijah, and the song titles are all Wirtszahlen. Wirtszahlen translates to poem or township. It's the township of repentance. And here's the fucking tangent I went on, and I learned all of this very, very quickly. One, Batushka split up, and this band, Patriarch, is the new version of a form of Batushka. Two, they released this album, which is a tribute to an actual person who existed in Poland in between, and was popular in between the Great War and World War II, who formed a cult that settled a place that was then referred to as Wirtszahlen, where they believed it was going to be the center of the modern world, and that this guy, Prophet Ilya, was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. This all started very small, and it snowballs very quickly, and I was hyper fixated on it. And not only that, you cannot find a lot of the information on this guy in English. So I had to translate on Google and read an English article to figure all this out. But this guy, essentially, his last name's like Kilomowicz. He was an illiterate farmer who was given the credit for murdering a bandit that he didn't actually murder, but he had sought divine help from a local priest, and people thought that that in itself was divine enough to give him some sort of credence. He was like, oh, this is nice. So eventually he forms like a few hundred followers. Now, this is a lot over a time period, but they settle into this town called Wirtszahlen, where then there's hundreds, literally hundreds. People like virgins and widows and people from surrounding communities are coming to join this place thinking that it's going to be a modern utopia with a reborn version of Jesus Christ. They start, because this man, I assume, stayed illiterate, they eventually have people taking on biblical roles, like not just like the role of scribe, but literally being the person who's going to write down the deeds of this guy as if it's the new Bible. And this is where it gets really interesting. This all is because there's actually a long-standing history in Russian and Eastern Orthodox churches of people believing that someone is the reincarnation of Christ. And it's so embedded in it that it was just in between World War I and where like it seemed like the end times had already happened. Like imagine seeing all of World War I and being like, oh, this is Revelations. And then this guy shows up and he's like, yeah, I saw divine retribution and that thief problem's down there. Like, it's Jesus. Like, but all of this is like so embedded into this little tiny fucking album experience that I had this morning while I was making my yogurt that I'm going to inevitably put into tubes and market to people. But that's my fucking jam this week, because I'm going to go back and listen to it now and delve even more into that. I have a problem. I need to solve this. Why, Odie? Why do you think my brain does this?
I don't know.
Why?
I mean, this episode
so
is just
much.
me sitting here listening to you go on like 18 different 5-minute tangents.
This is another ice cream truck episode.
This is very much a Kevin talks at Odie episode.
God damn it.
You just explained your jam for 5 minutes,
Round it off.
which went from the band to the backstory to Jesus.
It's amazing. Tell me that's not interesting. There's another guy in Russia that they thought was the second coming of Jesus. They crucified him twice. He came back twice. They ripped his skin off,
His
and a
name is
girl threw a
Rasputin.
sheet on him. No, that's not Rasputin. That's a totally different one, and I know way too much about him too.
Yeah.
A girl threw a sheet on him as a second skin. This is this is real human history. I love this shit. It's fucking insane. Like, human history is absolutely like. Of course cults still exist. Of course people fall into, like, the MAGA and modern, like, Christian revolution. Like, of course that's going to happen. Like, of course people believe, like, there are people in the world, in the Christian community, that are being deemed the second coming of Christ right now. Like, it's happening in other countries.
I've been
Like,
tweeting about it.
It's fucking insane. Like, it's so, like, and, like, this, but... So then listening to this album is like a really nice way for me to process it, I guess.
You speak the language?
I'm sorry that I speak at you so much. You know, let's round it off this way.
That's not all the time.
Yeah, but the new function for the podcast is we're doing the intro, and then you're bringing the hot topics and news, and I'm going to interact.
That's just for movie stuff.
And that's just to stop me from talking at you about experiences and philosophy and existential crises and fixations.
Hey, you had a lot to say this week, and I think that's okay, because honestly, I didn't have a lot to say this week.
Oh, good.
Because I mean,
good.
No,
I don't
no
feel
big,
so bad.
No big movies. I've been working on Magnum Nopus like nonstop to get ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything for the holiday.
Yeah.
My private jet experience, I did go to a party, but
That's good.
you know, I mean, it wasn't. The party was fine, but like, you know, the whole experience. Was
The
like,
private
whatever.
jet was fine. The party
Like,
was
yeah, like,
fine.
I just didn't do much this week, and honestly, I'm. You know what my highlight of the week is?
What?
Today, my new job gives me what they call a lifestyle allowance.
Oh, cool.
So I get so much money every month to spend on like whatever I want.
Cool.
So I ordered basically.
Is that just a bonus? Like,
yeah, kinda, I guess.
Cool.
It's for
I like
everybody. So I ordered basically a whole new wardrobe of clothes.
cool.
Yeah.
You get anything good?
Yeah, a lot of plain basic t-shirts with plain basic pants. So I get to get rid
Which
of
are
all.
fine.
Yeah, that's my whole style is just plain t-shirt, plain pants.
I
plain
love
hoodie.
that you're living your best fine life.
I'm living my minimalist life.
Everything is fine for Odie and Matthew.
Everything is fine.
They are fine.
Everything is just okay the way that it is.
Oh my god.
I'm just kidding.
Let's round it off. What are we talking about next week? What do we got going on? I saw you wrote some shit in the document. What's going on next week?
Next
Yeah,
week,
I'm going to start asking you this at the end of the podcast every week.
Next week, Den of Thieves 2 Pantera comes out, which is a sequel to a 2018 Cops and Robbers like kind of movie.
Yes, which is
So-
like one of the number one things on Max right now because the sequel's coming out.
So if anybody's curious in Den of Thieves, I will say two things. One, Magnum Nopus will have a video the Friday that the second one comes out if you want
Great.
to know everything you want to know about the second one.
I will watch that.
And two, bad movie. Did not like it.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, bad. And not in the
think-
ways you might be thinking.
Do you think the second will be better because there's nowhere to go but up?
Well,
Or do you think they will keep plunging for new depths?
Here's what Den of Thieves, the first one, does. It has this very serious, grounded, gritty, real tone.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, and this whole heist was pulled off through magic in this. And it's just like completely like.
There's a magician?
Like all of a sudden, this one character turns into like this mastermind. Like, it doesn't fit. Like, the ending doesn't fit the tone of everything else. Like, we go from, like, these very serious and grounded characters to this, like, almost, like, Now You See Me style ending. And
All right, now I want to watch it.
and the second one, watching the trailer about how Gerard Butler goes to team up with the robber, Like,
Yeah.
his character in this first one, like, lives, eats, breathes, and shits being a cop.
Yeah.
So, like, it just, yeah. Anyway, so
They're pulling
figured,
a Fast Five.
kind of. So I figured what we could do next week, if you wanted to, we could do one of our list episodes. We haven't done one of those in a while. Best and or worst.
That's what we're doing.
Like robbery, criminal versus cop movies.
Heist films?
Heist
Are we doing
movies.
best and worst heist films?
Yeah, like bank robberies, heists,
Let's
cop
just
fee robbers.
let's do top heist films. We'll mention the ones that we think are the worst, and then we'll get into Den of Thieves. Because that comes out next week.
Den of Thieves 2, yeah, I'll be seeing
Perfect.
it.
And I will let you talk about Den of Thieves 2, and I will interact. It's going to be great. This year is going to be great. Screw the existential crises. Screw Logan Paul and Conor McGregor and Logan Paul be damned. 2025
Kevin, I have our
banger.
slogan for 2025. You ready?
What is it?
Muga. Make
What's Muga?
UnPop great again.
Yeah. No.
No.
No, not that.
no,
Why'd
no.
you breathe that into existence? Now it exists. It's like the
Email.
basilisk. We can't let it go.
Email in.
Oh, yeah. UnPop. Email mysecretpoweris@gmail.com.
You can find Magnum Nopus at YouTube.
Well, we'll get better at this. We promise.
We promise.
Promise.